The first type of testing is color contrast and color blindness. And I used to lead this with the AX checks and AX accessibility testing, but I've sort of switched the order around because color contrast and color blindness checking can be done really as soon as you have comps available. So anything that's coming out of Sketch or UXPin or code that might be in staging or even on a local machine, you can start evaluating it for color contrast and color blindness. Now, these are important because when we have interfaces that are actionable, links, buttons, forms, modals, etc., color cannot be the only way that we're conveying meaning or intent. So the example I love to use here is links that don't have an underline. If we are just saying, well, click the blue text, we make an assumption that folks understand what or how we perceive blue on the color spectrum. For someone who has color blindness, they may not understand blue as we know it, and without that underline or that affordance, they're going to have trouble using that interface. So that's the primary concern for color blindness. For color contrast, there is a requirement that text has a 4.5 to 1 contrast ratio with its background color. That is to ensure that it's readable. I'm sure you've seen Apple websites where there's definitely a favor given to gray text on a white background, and sometimes that just becomes really hard to read and just provoke, it just causes eye strain, or you end up with a tension headache and you're not sure why. Those are the type of things we're interested in, maintaining this 4.5 to 1 ratio for text to background. As we move toward WCAG 2.1, there's also an additional requirement for a 3 to 1 contrast ratio for adjacent colors. So if I was evaluating these screens or these images here for color contrast, this darker block here would need to have a 3 to 1 ratio to this white background here. The good news on both of those fronts, our design system has colors that were specifically part of the USWDS design system and have been carefully selected for high contrast, for high luminosity, and for for high resistance to challenges with color blindness. Color contrast and color blindness can be checked with a number of tools. There are sketch plugins like Clues CC. I'm going to demonstrate the color blinding browser plugin. I'm also going to demonstrate something that I alluded to just learning about checking color blindness using the system preferences on a Mac. I also really enjoy a website called Who Can Use for color blindness and for color contrast, checking color pairs and seeing how they'll work out for color contrast or color blindness. The Chrome developer tools also can mimic different types of color blindness and color, color challenges, and the Axe browser plugin will tell you a lot about color contrast ratios. I'm going to step into a live demo portion. So the first thing I'm going to do is I will talk about color contrast and color blindness as they can be checked in a regular application. And so I'm actually going to, you know what, I'm going to open a different page for this. So I'm going to start with our front page on staging.va.gov because it has lots of color and it has lots of, has some images, we've got links, we've got iconography, we've got lots and lots of things going on here. So because this is, this is in staging, it's in production, we have, we're really good to go with regard to color contrast. But say I were to start designing, I was working on this section and I decided I wanted to try out a new link text color. So let's say I have, I've made these a much lighter blue color. Okay, so we're experimenting with a lighter blue color. And I need to know if this has sufficient color contrast with a white background. One of the ways that I could do that is in my dev tools, I'll copy down the hex value of this color, and I'm going to jump over to one of my favorite websites for, checking out color pairs, whocanuse.com. This gives me a couple of things. It gives me whether the color I've picked is going to pass WCAG. We're shooting for at least a 2A. 3A is even better, but 2A is the legal standard that we have to meet. And it also gives me previews for different types of color situations, whether someone may have a different type of color blindness, may have visual acuity items like cataracts or glaucoma, or be looking at it in direct sunlight or night shift mode. So I'm going to try out my new color. I'll paste it into the background, or rather, I'm going to flip that around. I'll have a white background, and I want to try out this new lighter blue color. Well, I can already see that I'm going to have trouble with that. My contrast ratio is a WCAG failure. Like by and large, this color is not going to fly. Axe is going to complain about it. Doing my diligence while I'm designing, I can see, nope, that color is not going to work. So if I'm going to change the link color for va.gov, I have to find one that's a little bit darker. So if I want, I can just, adjust the sliders and I can start picking different colors. Okay, now I'm getting back where I need to be. I'm above the 4.5 to 1 threshold, and we pass WCAG 2A. And if I look at it, it's still not great for folks with cataracts or low vision. We're still pretty hazy, direct sunlight, night shift mode. So if I kept improving it, okay, now we're getting to a more reasonable text color. So if I wanted to take that new color and bring it back over here, paste it in. Oops. So then I could make a recommendation that we use, this new color with, with high confidence that we are going to meet our contrast thresholds. Okay, that's how I would go about doing color contrast checks if I'm exploring new colors, or if I'm exploring the colors we already use on new backgrounds. Blue links on gray backgrounds, blue links on dark gray backgrounds. If we're exploring different treatments for modal windows or for alert boxes, this is the type of checking I would lead with. I'd want to make sure my pairs match up and we have good high contrast, so we don't run into troubles once we start getting further down the road with like our axe checks and with getting closer to staging review. So I'm going to reload this and flush out the experimenting I was doing with color contrast. The next thing we'll like to do is our color blindness checking. And my preferred way to do color blindness checking is to install a plugin called Color Blinding for Chrome. If I turn color blinding on, now I've got options to look at lots of different color blindness situations, and I can just cycle through them. So if I turn on red blind, you notice the background shifted to more of a purple color. If I scroll down, our icons now are definitely in shades of purple or green, as opposed to lots of different colors of the spectrum with a normal vision. But everything is still usable. There's still high contrast with our icons. Our links are still underlined. I still understand how I can, or what items are actionable. This becomes really important as we cycle through, like green blind, not a lot of change from red blind. Blue blind, we definitely have shifted to a different color spectrum. Where these are really important is if you end up in a situation for folks who see like in monochromacy or black and white or grayscale. If I go back and do something like set our text decoration underlined to none on our links, now in this case, there's almost not enough contrast between the link text and our regular text to know what's actionable and what's not. If I scroll down here, unless I take some initiative and roll over, these areas, there's some affordance with the way the background shifts. But again, on first glance, I might not know that these three cards are clickable or actionable. So that's why color blindness testing is really important. So I'm going to go back to color blinding and turn that off. if you, something I just discovered, and I'll try this out, this might fail, and I'll say that now, but I'm going to go ahead and try it anyway. And if you're on a Mac and you don't want to install a plugin, but you do want to do this type of testing, if you open your system preferences, go to accessibility, display, and color filters, now there's a checkbox called enable color filters. If I click on it, you notice how my screen just dropped into grayscale. If I open this drop-down menu, I also have options for red-green filter, green-red, or a blue-yellow, or adding in color tints. I'm going to go ahead and select red-green filter, and now I get, you know, a level of shaded red-green color blindness. If I turn up the intensity of this, now it shifts the background a little more. If I back it out, it's a little less so.
Are you guys seeing this? Because it's, I don't really see a difference on my end.
I couldn't see it either.
Yeah.
If I switch to grayscale, does it?
No. It looks the same to me, but unless should it be like significantly different than, because it doesn't look.
Huh. Right now it should just be in grayscale and shades of black, white, and gray.
It's exactly the same.
I wonder if it's I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's a zoom issue or what, but yeah.
I'd say that
affecting the monitor and not the feed.
Yeah, I bet that's a zoom issue. Well, okay, I had a feeling that might happen. That's the danger of trying out new things in a live demo.
Yeah. It's a cool feature though.
Yeah, it's good to know for those on Mac. It's just not translatable to those who are viewing remotely, right? I mean, so if it was changing it for you, Trevor, that means it changes for the engineer or whoever's viewing it. So that's perfect.
Yes, and I'm hoping that, I have a feeling it won't come through on the video, but that is definitely an option if you don't want to install a plugin or you're in an environment where you can't, but you're working on a Mac, you can still do that.
Yeah, it's definitely working. I'm trying it out locally here, and it definitely, I see how it. Yeah, that's pretty wild. So, what are the most common of the colorblind option? Is it the red green?
Typically red green, yes.
That's the one that most people have, or well, highest prevalence.
That's the highest prevalence. You start getting down to like the blue cone deficiency or monochromacy. Those are more rare, but they do occur.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm gonna do a quick time check. Oh, we're in really good shape. I'm gonna go ahead and reload this page, and so I can flush out all of my local overrides. And we're back to where we started. So those are the broad strokes for color blindness and color contrast checking, and some ways to approach both.